By the start of 2003, the stock market was a graveyard. The dot-com bubble had completely burst, and anyone who had built their wealth in the 90s was watching it evaporate. The entire financial world was paralyzed, starved for any signal that made sense. That is exactly when the emails started. They arrived at exactly 4:47 a.m. every Monday morning. No name, no explanation, just 3 stock tickers and a date range. If you followed those cryptic instructions, you got rich. By July of that year, one untraceable account, opened under a fake name, had turned $800 into $17 million. Nobody knew who was sending the emails, so the trading floors started calling him the Prophet. In a healthy market, an anonymous voice offering guaranteed wealth triggers every alarm bell you have. But in a desperate environment, an unexplainable algorithm feels like salvation. People stopped asking how the Prophet knew the numbers and began treating his instructions as divine. A trader named James Chen received his first email in January. The prediction was for a semiconductor company he'd never heard of. He put in $2,000 as a test, bought on the specified date, and sold exactly when instructed. Over 6 months, he quietly parlayed that initial test into $124,000. He was far from the only one. The emails spread across trading floors like a virus. Colleagues passed the predictions along in code. Online forums filled up with cryptic references to the exact timing of the trades. An entire underground network became totally reliant on the Prophet's weekly signals. Then, in June, the emails changed. The layout and the perfect predictions were exactly the same, but there was a bank account number at the bottom and a single note: "I've seen what you've made. 30% of profits to this account, or the emails stop." The traders faced an immediate dilemma. They had to choose between paying a massive extortion fee to a ghost or being cut off from the only winning streak that existed on Wall Street. Greed overrides logic. The traders didn't like it, but they all transferred the money. They locked themselves into blindly funding an entity they knew absolutely nothing about, simply because it kept making them rich. One of those traders was a man named Derek. Derek had made over $300,000 following the emails, and he needed every cent of it. His mother was sick with cancer. Her treatments were entirely uninsurable, and the Prophet's predictions were the only way he could keep her alive. Derek had never mentioned his mother to anyone online, but his latest email contained an extra line at the bottom. It read, "I know who you are now. I know what you need. That's how this works." The Prophet's surveillance network had expanded from market data into private medical records. Whoever was sending the emails was now reading clinical histories and identifying the specific personal vulnerabilities of their targets. Derek realized the Prophet was holding his mother's life hostage to see if he would pay the debt. He transferred the money anyway and completely submitted his psychology to an unseen, anonymous entity. This trap relied on a total asymmetry of information. The Prophet knew every vulnerability of the people in the network, while they knew absolutely nothing about him. On September 8th, the Prophet sent out a prediction for a specific biotech stock. He called for a 7% swing over a tight 6-day window. Synchronized by the same invisible hand, thousands of traders placed massive buy orders on the exact same morning. This chart visualizes that stock's trajectory over the next few days. By Wednesday, the stock soared far past the 7% threshold, hitting 14%. The move was so violently unusual that the SEC instantly announced an investigation into the trading patterns. The stock collapsed 18% in 4 hours. Everyone who followed the prediction lost money on the exit. The illusion of the Prophet's perfect track record shattered instantly. 3 months later, James Chen received an envelope in the mail containing printed screenshots of his own personal bank statements, his retirement accounts, and his ATM withdrawals. Across the top, written in blue pen, was a single sentence: "I could have made it worse. You should thank me." The Prophet weaponized James's own greed, timing the collapse to the exact moment James reached for one final reckless trade. The entire crash was an engineered exit strategy, proving the Prophet understood the trader's behavior better than the trader himself. The Prophet disappeared for 3 years. Then, in 2006, the emails resumed, with a list of 17 names, former traders who had taken his money and thought they had successfully moved on with their lives. The message promised that each person would suffer an accident by the end of June. One by one, the targets experienced medical emergencies, mechanical failures, and car crashes. By the end of June, 4 of the people on that list were dead. James contacted the FBI, but the Prophet's footprint remained untraceable. The money transfers dissolved into offshore accounts and shell corporations, leaving investigators with a 4-inch thick file and no suspects. To prove his predictive reach, the Prophet sent an email directly to FBI headquarters in Boston. He provided the exact time, specific location, and exact casualty count of a mass shooting 3 weeks before it occurred. When the event happened exactly as he described, the authorities were forced to accept the scale of his foresight. The Prophet's ability to map financial systems had shifted into mapping human systems. By analyzing the same variables that govern a stock, location, timing, and behavioral probability, he was now treating physical events as predictable data points. It is now 2023. James Chen is 53 years old, retired in Portland, Oregon, and wealthy beyond his wildest imagination. He has spent decades living quietly, convinced he was finally removed from his past life. At 4:47 a.m., he receives an email. "I'm starting again. Different game, higher stakes. I just wanted you to know that I remember, and I'm very glad you didn't make that list." James frantically deleted the email and the account. He changed his phone number and destroyed his digital connections in the dark, trying to erase his presence from the network. But deletion is a hollow gesture. Once an entity capable of mapping human behavior has seen you, your privacy is a relic. You never stop being a pawn in a game where the future is already known.